Hi, I'm Bob Hockberger, and today's talk is Getting Work Accomplished While Advancing the Careers of Others. I spent 25 years working as a chair of an academic department in emergency medicine and was fortunate enough to be able to serve as the president of the American Board of Emergency Medicine and the Society for Academic Emergency Medicine. And in all of those roles, I had the opportunity to learn, I think, how to delegate effectively, and I'd like to share some of what I've learned with you today. In academics, we grow within two venues, internally within your department, from faculty member to program director to section or division chief to vice chair and perhaps to chair, and within national organizations from committee member to subcommittee chair to committee chair to board of director member and maybe to president. In both venues, as we climb the administrative ladder from one step to another, there is a greater degree of responsibility we're given, a greater amount of work, and with that, a number of people to work with to accomplish that. Why do we delegate? Because if we don't, we're never going to be successful. The best leaders that I've known have seen delegation as an opportunity to mentor, not to rule over, but to work with. An opportunity to help faculty develop, because that's part of your job. And an opportunity to pick the best person to replace you on your rung of the ladder as you move on to the next one. So if you see delegation as an opportunity to mentor, if you see your role not as a manager with the authority and responsibility to make people work to get a job done well, but as a mentor with the opportunity to work with other people to help them develop along the way, I think you'll be much more successful and much happier. In the end, we're measured by two things: the amount and the quality of our work product and the reputation we develop for being someone who people want to work with. Mentors are teachers, they're counselors, they're advocates, they're facilitators, and probably more than anything else, they're role models. So what are the steps in successful delegation? Number one, choose the best person or team for the job. This is distribution, supposedly true in any branch of business. You'll always have, if you look at the chart on the left-hand side, some people who will always do more than everybody else. And on the right-hand side, a few that will always do less, with the typical bell-shaped curve distribution in between. Now, in academic departments, I think this curve is probably shifted over to the left, but nonetheless, it is a curve. And your job is to move people to the left, both as individuals and as a group. How do you do that? By motivating them. What motivates people? David McClellan, a professor of psychology at Wesleyan University, I believe, who has written a lot on motivation over the years. And he says people are motivated by three things. First, the need to achieve, to become better at what you've chosen to do. I'll modify this a bit to say, in my experience, that's really effective if it's an area of interest. If you've got an educational project, you want a person interested in a career in education. The same for research or administration. When you can do that, that's a big plus. People have a desire and need for affiliation, basically meaning we want to be liked and appreciated for what we do. And then lastly, power. An odd term, but it is true that people want power in one of two ways. They want influence and respect for themselves. And if they're really good at leadership, they want others to gain influence and respect and know how to go about doing that. So the need for affiliation, for achievement, for power, you need to understand that. You need to understand the people who work for you and explain to them why this project will help them advance in one of those three venues. Once you've picked the right person, you want to explain what exactly is the task, why are we doing it, and what will success look like in the end. In this chart, we're going from green to orange, and we want to improve. We want to improve patient flow through the department. We want to improve resident evaluations of our conferences. We want to bring in more money supporting research projects. We're here. We want to get there. This is why we want to get there, and this is what success will look like when we get there. Then you have to decide for yourself first, and then describe to the person, what is the level of responsibility you're giving them? I found this book, Time Management for Dummies, to be extremely helpful in a number of areas of management. It has a great chart here showing 6 levels of delegation, from just gathering facts for me so I can make a decision to just go out and do the job. For me, I broke it down into 5. First, please follow these instructions. You're probably not going to do that with most people. Number 2, please look into this and clarify the situation, and then come back and let's discuss it. And as they've clarified the situation and the two of you discuss it, you get a real sense of whether they're ready to move on to the next phase, which is, give me your analysis of the situation and your recommendation, and then we'll decide together how to proceed. And this is probably the level at which most faculty will begin, but some need to begin at 2. The next stage, decide how you want to handle the situation. Let me know your plan before you begin. Give me that last second check to see if there's something that I want to tweak on this plan. And then finally, please handle this situation, keep me apprised of your progress, and let me know if you need help. That's the level at which you want to bring your faculty if you can. Why? Because your job is faculty development. Getting them through these stages is part of faculty development. Also, the more people you've got at stage 5, the more work you're going to be able to do, high quality work, and the more time you're going to have as a leader to participate in other endeavors. I was fortunate enough to have some wonderful faculty better at their jobs than I would have been at their jobs, which gave me time to be the president of a national organization, edit a textbook, do visiting professorships, and the other kind of fun things academics offers to people that as a department chair, you oftentimes don't have time to do. It also gives you the chance, among those people who make it to 5, to identify those who do have the potential for leadership within your own organization and in national organizations. Once you've done that, you want to talk with them about what are the resources you think necessary to do this job. Time, administrative or technical support, training. I remember once asking a vice chair to look into improving our billings. And after a little bit of thought, he said, I don't know much about billing. I would like to have you support my time and the money necessary to take an ASAP course on billing. I'd also like to take Medical Foundation, was the organization that did billing for us. I would like to take the administrative person in the Medical Foundation with me. And if we can't convince the head of the Medical Foundation to pay for that, I would appreciate it if you would pay for that person to come with me so that we can learn together, so we'll be able to come back and talk the same language. I also want to be able to collect data so that each month at the faculty meeting, I can give an update on how we're doing. And I want to be able to collect data by individuals so privately I can give them feedback. And that sounded pretty good to me, and so I supported those requests in order for him to get prepared to do the job I'd asked him to do. Next, you want to agree on a deadline. And I've modified this to say deadlines. Oftentimes, no matter what position I was in, someone else was giving me a deadline. And so what I'd want is, looking at the deadline I was given, pick about a week, sometimes 2, before that is the deadline I'm giving the person I'm delegating responsibility for this project to, because I want time to take a look at it, to think about it, to tweak it if necessary. And if it's a big project or really important project, I actually will make that even bigger. I may add another week or 2 to that. Why do I do that? Because of this. This slide says procrastination. I'll find a picture for it later. I did find a picture for it. Procrastination, the definition, the action of ruining your life for no apparent reason. We all suffer from it, and our faculty are also going to suffer from it. You need to recognize it first. What happens? Well, you've got a task. You think about it. For some reason, it causes you anxiety. You then promise you're going to do it later to diminish the anxiety. You feel better. You go on to move something that you're more interested in or it's easier for you to do. And then eventually it comes back again because there is a deadline out there. You need to determine the reason for it. And this is worth, I think, thinking for yourself also. Why do you put off things that you think are important but don't want to do? Because it's the same reasons that your faculty or the people working with you on the committee are going to procrastinate. First, that person may just be disorganized. And if that's the case, help them develop a plan, either serve as or assign them a mentor for the project, and then later have them take a course or go through a computer program on project management. The next possibility is the project's just overwhelming. Some people are good on small projects, but when it becomes a big project with multiple steps, get a bit overwhelmed. And if that's the case, then you can work with them or assign a mentor to break the big project down into little projects. Each project has a deadline. And then when you finish that, also teach them a bit about project management. This is an outline of basic project management. Think about building a new emergency department or creating a residency training program or a new research program. Big projects that are going to take a fair amount of time. Your major goal is building the new ED or improving flow through the hospital, including the emergency department. The major goal is broken down into projects. If you're building a new ED, it may be you need to have people assigned to the triage and medical screening exam area. Some people are going to work on the adult ED, some the pediatric ED, some the resuscitation area, some the observation area. And each of those projects is going to be broken down into segments with deadlines. Once you've got those segments and deadlines, you need to break the deadlines or the segments down into tasks. Those tasks need to go onto your to-do list, which may be daily or weekly. And then the project manager needs to manage and follow that over time to make sure that the project moves forward. Really complex, and that degree of detail necessary only for huge projects. But if you understand the concept, it makes even smaller projects much easier to deal with. The third reason is the person just isn't motivated to do this project. They're an educator and you've asked them to do an administrative project, or the project's unpleasant. You have to deal with nursing or a department that is just difficult to deal with. Sometimes you simply have to put your nose to the grindstone. Your nose to the grindstone? Anyway, put your head down and do the work. What you need to concentrate on or focus on are the consequences. If this doesn't get done, these are the consequences to you as an individual and to the organization. It needs to be done. It needs to be scheduled as a priority, and you need to set a deadline and make the deadline. I grew up the oldest of 6 boys in a large Midwestern Catholic family. And my father assigned each of us tasks. One of my brothers helped my mother with the dishes. Another one took the garbage out. Another one had to make sure that the front lawn was raked or sidewalks cleared of snow in the winter. And at the end of each week, if we did our jobs and my mother didn't complain about us, then on Sunday afternoon, my dad took us to the A&W for root beer floats and then home to watch the wild world of Disney in the evening on TV. A big prize at the end of the week for being good. And as I grew up, my brothers and I all did the same thing to get ourselves to be good boys, to accomplish tasks in a timely manner. This is a picture of the Cheesecake Factory in Redondo Beach at sunset. Most Friday evenings, I take Patty, my wife, down to the Cheesecake Factory. We have dinner at sunset. She has a glass of champagne. I have my Long Island iced tea. We watch the sunset and talk about life in general. Patty knows that if I don't finish all of my projects by Friday afternoon, we're not going to the Cheesecake Factory. And almost routinely by Wednesday, she's asking me what I'm working on that week and am I going to finish things on time so we can have dinner. And occasionally I've told that story to faculty to make the importance or make the point of dealing with difficult issues by setting deadlines and maybe creating something for yourself that's special to pay yourself. Now, the next step is important and almost always overlooked, and that is asking the question of this person, why won't this work for you? We've outlined the task, we've talked about it, we've talked about resources that you might need, we've talked about deadlines. Now, why won't this work for you? As you look at the picture here, your plan, it may look fairly easy and straightforward to you, but if you've picked the right person for this particular project, they understand the landscape much better. And they understand the potholes and the challenges that they're going to run into. For example, that vice chair that I asked to improve billing for the department, when I asked him this question, what he said was, you know, we have 2 senior faculty that everybody respects, if not adores, and emulates. If those 2 people, I don't think they're going to want to do this. If they do it, chart differently for billing purposes, everybody's going to do it. If they don't do it, no one's going to do it. I would like you to talk with them individually before we even begin this project to get their buy-in to doing that. And that was amazingly helpful. Both of those guys were resistant, but as I discussed it with them, they agreed to give it a try, and the project was reasonably successful. Important to know that these last 5, talking about the required resources, agreeing on deadlines, and addressing why won't this work for you, if it's a really big or important project, you may not be able to, at this initial meeting, come to a resolution of those. And so if they ask for more time, or if you think they might need more time, it's absolutely fine, in fact, appropriate, to say, why don't you think about this? And let's meet again in a couple of days or next week and go over steps 5, 6, and 7 again to make sure we're on the same page and you're ready to take off on this project. From that point on, you just follow and support them. But don't allow them to turn responsibility for the project back over to you. This is a great picture. And I pulled it off the internet after reading this article. Back in 1999, the Harvard Business Review published an article. You see it at the bottom here. Management Time, Who's Got the Monkey? And it is a humorous and insightful discussion of all the ways that employees find to turn responsibility for projects back over to their supervisors, and gives examples and suggestions for how you can keep that from happening. Finally, at the end, you want to provide feedback and recognition at the end of the project. Here's a book, 1,001 Ways to Reward Employees. To me, two things are important. You want to thank them in private and recognize them in public. At the end of the project, it's a good pattern to get into, to meet with them, to talk about the project, to thank them for all their hard work, to emphasize the things that you feel they did that were great, to ask them what they feel about what they learned and what they've learned that will make them better in their next project. And before they leave, you pat them on the back and thank them again for the great job, pointing out what it's done for them, for the department, for the future. And then you want to recognize them in public. It may be as simple as mentioning at a faculty meeting. I spent a lot of time on weekends trying to come up with awards that I could nominate my faculty for in the hospital, the medical school, local, national organizations, not for an individual project, but for success in multiple projects that really helped advance our department, in many instances, academic emergency medicine. Didn't cost me anything except some time, and they truly appreciated it. So at the end, talk to them about the project, thank them, and reward them by recognizing them in public. This is the slide I think I'd like to have you keep in the back of your mind. As you go through life and go up the academic ladder, at each level, don't think of yourself as a manager with authority and now responsibility to manage people to finish projects in a timely fashion. Think of yourself as a mentor, as a teacher, a coach, a facilitator, an advocate, a role model, working with people to help advance your department, the field of emergency medicine, your opportunity to mentor other people, to grow your own leadership style and technique, and to identify the people who you're going to promote to fill in the gap as you move up the ladder. Delegation is mentoring opportunity. Think about it. And thank you all for the time you've given to pay attention.